In today's episode, we're going to explore how us parents can foster a love for nature in our children, drawing from our own personal experiences and a concept called biophilia. Learn practical ways to help your kids connect with the environment, even in urban spaces. Let's dive in. Welcome, everybody, to a very special podcast episode, something that I honestly am not too used to doing. So mind me if I'm looking over to my monitor here to call on stuff for my notes that I've taken, because this is something I'm doing for my environmental communications class. But I want to put this out there for everyone to be able to see, because what I'll be talking about in this 3-part series, it means a lot to me. And through this class that I've been taking, environmental communication, I've learned a lot, and I want to learn more, and I want to do better. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not the person who claims to live that life that some would see as extra, quote unquote, when it comes to the people who are environmentalists. Now, I want to get there, and I don't think it is extra, and that's something we will talk about a little bit in this series. But I just want you to know I am speaking from a place that, had different upbringings. I had one side that had this affinity and this love for nature, and the other side that just, it wasn't really a thing per se. So I just want to preface this whole series with that. But without further ado, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be talking about environmental issues that we see out there as parents. And if you're a parent who cares about, fostering a place for your kids to grow, then this is the episode series for you. So thank you for tuning in. Now, let's get to the good stuff. I know I'm going to get graded on this, so I got to, right? Now, in today's episode, as you heard in the intro, I want to explore how us parents can foster the love for nature in our children. And I want to empower all you parents to realize that it's our job, and you are capable of shaping environmentally conscious future generations. Like I just said, yes, it is up to us to make sure that our kids have a place to live. But I believe that the way that we do that, and especially through this class that I've taken, starts with the kids, the next generation. And for me, like I said at the beginning of this all, I have some personal things there. And it really comes back to my grandpa, who raised me pretty much with my mom and my grandma. And all I can remember is us being outside, him teaching me to slow down and smell the flowers, and understanding what that means more now as a grown adult with my own 2 young kids. And when I look back on all these major events in my life that have either been trauma, maybe excitement, or just something I had to work through, nature has always been there. And that's where my love for nature has come from, or my affinity for nature has come from. And that kind of brings me into one of the topics of today's episode. I mentioned a concept in the beginning, in the intro, called biophilia. I want to talk about this a little bit further. So biophilia, it's crucial for kids to develop that connection with nature. So what is biophilia? You keep saying it. So what is it? Well, there's 2 different sides of the coin. There's biophilic, there's biophilia. So when you're biophilic, you have a fear of nature in some type of way. Now, when you have biophilia essentially just means an innate love for nature, something we're actually all born with, even if it doesn't always look like it. Now, biophilia is what drives those kids to dig in the dirt, to chase butterflies, or to build in the forest. It's the natural curiosity and joy that we all experienced as a kid playing outside with our friends. For me, I take it right back to when I was younger, outside, not having to come home until the lights came on the street, and we were running around playing in the dirt, playing cops and robbers. I was hiding in bushes, using nature as my oyster. And it was amazing, and I absolutely loved every single second of it. But what I didn't realize was that was one of the pieces that played a role in my affinity for nature. Having those amazing moments like that I can recall on that made me feel good, and also having nature be a part of that. It doesn't have to be tag or anything like that, right? There's a lot of different ways that this can be implemented, and I'm actually going to go into that toward the end of the episode here in a little bit. But I do want to highlight something that I was able to find through this class, and it's some research by, and I might pronounce this wrong, but Shala, I believe, in 2009. And I'm not able to post the paper to this or anything like that because it is something that we had in class, and I don't think I have the right to give it to you all, but I will share what that research showed. So, the research in 2009 was showing us that when kids grow up experiencing nature regularly, it impacts everything. This is huge for me. Somebody who's a wellness coach, this means so much to me. Mental health, physical health, and even how much they care about the environment as adults. Shala in 2009 talks about how those early moments outdoors can actually shape a person's environmental values for life. Come on now. I want my kids to be mentally healthy. I want my kids to be physically healthy. And I am damned if my kids are going to be the ones who are throwing trash on the street, just disregarding everything around them like they run this place. No. We're all a part of this together, us and Mother Nature combined. So, I take it back again. Biophilia is simply an innate love for nature. And it's something that we are all born with. It's why we all want to go play outside in the dirt and dig and do all those things. But that can be taken away or lost in us with the world that we live in. So let's talk about some of those challenges and the solutions that we can do when it comes to those challenges. So as parents, I think one of the biggest things, especially in urban spaces, if you're somebody, I'm in Minnesota, if you're from the Twin Cities area, anything like that, there's a lack of something called green spaces. Now, I suggest looking up green spaces, Samson 2012. If you look that up, you'll be able to find a couple of different papers and people who've wrote things based off of that paper about green spaces. But what are green spaces? Well, these are parks, forests, gardens, and any natural area that gives people, especially children, the opportunity to connect with nature. Repeat, a green space is either a park, a forest, garden, any natural area that gives people, especially children, the opportunity to connect with nature. Now, Dr. Sampson's research in 2012 highlights a pretty troubling reality. Not all communities have equal access to green spaces. For example, children in undeserved neighborhoods are significantly less likely to have access to safe parks or even tree-lined streets. Instead, many grow up surrounded by concrete, noise, pollution, and all the other stuff that's going on in these busy cities. And their physical health, mental health is all affected, and also limits their ability to develop that connection with nature that we want to develop in them. But how are they supposed to if they're not given that chance? If our cities are taking away all the trees that we could see, there's no more green sometimes when I'm driving through Minneapolis and St. Paul. Like, how are we supposed to do that for our kids in that moment? Well, let's talk about that a little bit more. So I know it's it's scary, right? It sounds all scary. It's like, well, I live in these urban spaces. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't want my kid to grow up and just disregard it all, because I want them to have some of those same memories that I had as a kid, whether it's like the family barbecues, whether that's, like me playing as a kid with friends, or taking back to my grandpa, being able to have that special person who you can connect a lot to nature with, right? I think that's huge for every kid to have the chance to have that. And I get that it's scary to feel like, oh, there's no way out of it, but there is. And I'm going to give you some simple steps here. Now, some actionable things you could go do right now to create more green spaces in your environment is maybe something like a mini garden. That could be in your backyard. It could even be in your house. They have those little tabletop gardens you can now do. You even just go for walks. If you don't have the tree lined streets, well, maybe we just got to drive the car, take a bus, whatever your means of transportation might be, to the location where nature is and be able to go into it if we can't bring it to us. And just really observing nature in small ways. Like my grandpa taught me on when we're just going to the store or in a rush going somewhere, stopping me and being like, hey, smell this flower. But when I was a kid, I was like, why? Now I see what he was trying to do. And it worked, because now I do that. I remind myself to do those things. And this class has really helped me just realize, okay, I want to do more with this feeling, not just feel it, learn what it is, learn about it, learn what biophilia is. I didn't even know that was a thing I had. And then go teach my kids, the next generation, how to have that affinity with nature and what to do with it. Now, I want to relate some things back to a class discussion that we had. Now, we did this poem it's called Where I'm From, and I'll share it in the description. You can check it out in the show notes. I'll have everything down there. I have like a little Google Doc link that's accessible to everybody with the link. You can check that out if you want to read through it. Feel free to do so. Now, one of the parts from it that I want to read from you all is this. From a grandpa who will go to the end of the world for his family and community around him, and from the thing that cannot come with me when I am gone, nor do much that nor let me reread that. I apologize. From a grandpa who will go to the end of the world for his family and community around him, and for the thing that cannot come with me when I am gone, nor do much than give others something that is just as meaningless when I am gone. Now, what I was referring to here is my grandpa, somebody who just means the world to me and what he meant to me. And then the next thing was, what was one thing that I learned from him? And it was money, right? Like money is one thing that cannot come with me, and it's not going to give anybody anything when I'm gone. It's pretty meaningless in the grand scheme of it. And it hits me hard, because I think the biggest thing that I can do, the richest thing that I can do for my kids, yes, I'm down to create generational wealth as long as they go forth and do something with that wealth to then help out the environment, their community, to create more green spaces, to whatever it might be, whatever my kids decide to go do with that knowledge, that affinity for nature. That's what I want to see. So I just thought that was a little interesting thing. And going back to it was kind of cool now that I'm finishing up the class and being able to, look over those things. Now, I want to encourage everybody to just try one of the tips this week, right? Share it on social media. Use the hashtag #NatureWithKids. Go for a walk with the kiddos. I understand if you don't like posting your kids on social media. I'm the same way. Maybe it's just a picture of you. You can use that same hashtag. Maybe you decide to get one of the little gardens for your countertop in the kitchen. Take a picture of it. Share it with the community. Share it even if you're not on social media. Like maybe just send it to the family and friends and be like, hey, here's what I'm doing, because that's where this all starts. And you don't have to dive in head first to throwing everything away, doing everything completely different. Like, yes, I'm working toward that myself and making sure that I'm doing things in a different way now that I'm understanding things more. But it all comes down to just awareness and then taking those small steps. Just like I would coach any client in my coaching business, same thing here. Like we got to take small steps as parents. if we aren't there yet ourselves. And if we are somewhat there, well, cool. Let's not just wait. Let's do something with it now and then continue to learn. I think that's great. We can all do it as a community. So pick one of those things, garden, going for a walk, or just observing nature in the small way. Stop and smell those flowers. If you guys want to check any of the resources, please make sure you go down in the description in the show notes and you'll be able to check any of the resources. I have a pretty cool website for you all down in the description, childrenandnature.org. It's an organization that focuses on connecting children with nature and provides practical resources for families, educators, and community leaders. It includes things like research, ideas for outdoor activities, and initiatives to combat nature deficit disorder. Something we're kind of talking about, right? Hey, that nature deficit disorder, not having that affinity for nature, biophilia. All right, everybody, I'm going to leave it there for you all for this episode. I'll see you all for episode 2.